Hey guys, got an update. All the things that I'm aware of that had a little bit of a bug to it have all been fixed up, as far as I'm aware. So we had particle transparency issues, in some cases plants disappearing with adjusting certain things on the train. Some of the shaders not working. A lot of the stuff, everything I know of has been fixed up. So I'm going to show you the latest stuff I've been working on now, which is getting access to the depth buffer and trying to create SSAO. Didn't really eventuate, unfortunately, because I relied on Claude AI and ChatGPT, and they just couldn't get it together. It just got more and more complicated, more and more code it kept throwing at it. It just couldn't get it to work. I'll just end up reverting back to the original code others have made for SSAO in Irrelict. Actually, that'd probably be a lot better. Anyway, I did get something to work. This is called cavity depth. So it's a mixture of edges, highlighting the edges, and also updating the depth distance, adding shading at distance. So it actually looks quite good at a certain distance. So I'll activate that now. This is OpenGL. It looks pretty good, doesn't it? It looks heaps better than what it was before. You can actually see, the further away you go, it is getting that depth distance shading. Looks heaps better. So that does work. It's not particularly high demand on performance-wise either, this particular one. This is really good. See the corner over there? You get a bit of highlights as you're facing the corner. And that corner, those corners all show up as well. I think it looks pretty good for what it is, compared to this is already a dynamically lit with a directional light, which looked boring by default, but looks heaps better now. So up the top left is the depth buffer. Then the green one is the depth buffer that you normally can't view because it's sort of encoded somehow. The black one, I'm not sure what that is. Anyway, so both OpenGL and DirectX for this particular shader works fine. They're pretty much identical. So I don't know, it's a good start. I might work on it a bit more, see if I can actually get shading to work a little bit more up closer. So it's because it actually goes away up close, as you'd expect. It's white. Things are white when they're really close and dark when they're further away. So you're getting the distance fade, but up close you don't see anything. I think I'll try and adjust that so I can make the distance adjustment. So I don't know how successful that will be. But anyway, it looks good, isn't it? So that works. Notice all the head bobbing and everything works for standard camera. So that's only for indoors as well. So it's not for terrains. I wouldn't use this for terrains. You get some weird effects. It's got a distance check, so at a certain distance it cuts out and cuts back in again. So you can change the distance, obviously. I'll show you how to do that later. I actually haven't got that API for that yet, but I'll update that soon. Yeah, so it's adding distance shade and edges, which is sort of interesting. Good for interiors, not really good for outdoors. I wouldn't use it for outdoors, but interiors, sure. So up close you don't see anything. Further away it gets more defined. Up to a certain darkness, and it won't go beyond a certain darkness the further away it is, so you don't get too dark. But yeah, I think it's something. It's got edges. You can see the edges. You can change the thickness of the edges, the strength of the shading in the depth. It's a nice little improvement for it adds a lot more detail actually. So yeah, it's quite good. For now, so I'll have another go at SSAO later, but for now I'm just taking a break because I spent too much time on it, and frankly Claude AI and ChatGPT frankly just wasted too much of my time. I just couldn't get it, because kept adding more and more code, more and more complicated code, more shaders, more stages of post-processing, and still couldn't get it, so I just give up on it, frankly. Those programs are good to give you a bit of a head start on setting things up, but to really refine something, it may not work. It may not work at all. It might actually just be a waste of time, depending. Anyway, so what I've found is if you got problems with it, and if it fails to fix it on the first go of setting through the updated code and an image of what it's actually doing and what it should be doing instead of what it is doing, and telling it, can you fix it? If it doesn't fix it the first go, don't waste any more time with it. It's usually a waste of time. It'll just keep going in circles and just keep throwing code at it. Claude AI is actually a bit of a joke. It constantly will over enthusiastically say, yes, this is definitely the problem. This is definitely the problem. And this has happened about 100 times, and every single time it never fixed anything. Bit of a joke, actually, I have to be honest. Just after a while, I kept just laughing my ass off because it was so stupid that you can't trust it at all. ChatGPT is a fraction better, I think, but they're both very similar. ChatGPT doesn't carry on to say, yeah, this is definitely the problem. I finally found it. It's a bit more cautious in how it talks to you, but yeah. Anyway, so there's this one's called Cavity, which depth cavity is a proper name. I might change that, but for now it's just called Cavity. To turn it on, you just put Cavity on as true, and it will activate it. This works for both OpenGL and DirectX at the moment. Yeah, so everything else I'm aware of bugs and stuff that did crop up a little bit have all been rectified. So yeah, so that should be fine now. Any problems, make sure you test it out compared to the default CopperCube, and if it is a problem, let me know and I'll fix it up. Thanks. Okay, this is the scene manager.cpp. It's the main manager for every scene that you run. It runs through a scene manager. And if you want to debug post effect, just remove the debug part. Doesn't work correctly as you'd expect. So I've just uncommented out. So these were both commented out before. So I just commented back in. And if you run that, recompile it with that, it'll work all right. So yeah, as you can see, I've been playing with some stuff. Haven't got that working yet. Cavity on. That's the depth cavity that we were looking at before. That does work. That doesn't. Not in DirectX. Doesn't work at the moment. Yeah. So with CopperCube source code, yeah, you had to make a lot of adjustments. Claude AI actually was good in making the core adjustments to update certain things at different times. So you need to put under the draw all, just at the end of the draw all section, just before all the render lifts get cleared back to 0, I'm running these post effects, SSAO or Cavity. That's the one that works pretty well at the moment. This one not so well. Yeah, so then you've got to set up depth buffer. So you're creating like multiple render targets. Which is, yeah, so you've got all these different things that have to be set up. You need, in this case, it's using a normal render texture and a depth render texture, setting up both of those two. DirectX 9 is different to OpenGL. OpenGL is a bit of a pain to work with, actually, because you've got to pack the information into some... so if you're using this type of texture format, it seems to ignore it completely and just creates an 8-bit target texture. There's no float render target texture. Somehow that's what it needs. So you have to pack the RNG colors into a special formula and then unpack it every time. It slows the whole thing down. Not very efficient, not very good. You can get it to work, but yeah. But anyway, don't have to do that. Worry about that with DirectX 9. So then you've got to, once you've created the textures, then you've got to every frame you've got to render the gbuffer pass. So I've got two versions depending on which shader that you're trying to run. This is a more basic one, or this one here is more of a full one that has both uses the normals and the depth texture, whereas this one just uses the depth only. So I've just separated the two. So you're doing quite a bit of stuff. So with the cavity, you've got multiple things you've got to worry about. You've got, yeah, where to put this code correctly. Then you've got is run post-pros effect. So at the moment, standard core CopperCube has set up a separate little run process for Bloom. It has to run certain things. Blur has to run certain things. SSAO, yeah, it's quite involved. There's a lot of stuff has to run there. I've got a debug depth that depth buffer image is actually debug. So when you remove the debug post effects, this code is just deleted completely. It won't run. It's fine. It'll just improve performance. But when you're debugging, yeah, you might want to see it. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on just for that. But as cavity is a little bit better, not as much stuff. Yes, but it's still quite a bit. So this is running every single frame. It's got to go through all these different processes and set textures and switch between different render targets and all this sort of stuff. And this is standard code to say, okay, if you want to run any sort of post-processing effect, then this is the name of the file of the data, and that stuff is always held under Scene Manager shaders. So all the different names of the data just goes in here. That's the shadows. All that here is standard CopperCube for shadows. It's quite a lot. It replaces the whole engine. Instead of fixed function pipeline, it goes to HSLL. It's only for DirectX 9, all of that. And then you've got different post-processing shaders that come with CopperCube, and then all my own ones that I've added in, heaps of stuff that I've added in. So that's standard CopperCube, and then you've got my stuff I've added in, which is a lot. Yeah, and then you've got here's a gbuffer for OpenGL. So you've got the vertex part, the fragment part, debug part if you're running a debug, and then you've got the actual code to run the individual shader. Once you've got the depth buffer, there's a lot involved actually in getting this to work. So that's SSAO. It's quite complex. I think it's overly complex, frankly. It didn't really work that well. I'm thinking of gutting it and starting again from probably some older Erlich code is going to work a lot better, actually. Yeah, so basically Claude AI and ChatGPT, look, they're not as good as you think they are. They can help. They're like a young programmer with 2 or 3 years experience. That's what it's like. They have some skill, but not that much. And they make a ton of errors, an absolute ton of errors, and they keep falling over themselves and going in circles all the time. Nowhere near as good as you think. So basically, I would say, yeah, you can use them to get an initial start on a project. I would say is good. And then ask a question. If you get any problems, ask a question, show them all the information, upload it, get them to try and fix it. If their first attempt fails, basically don't bother anymore, because they're not going to be able to fix it. They should have fixed it the first go if they really understood the problem. It means they don't understand the problem if they can't fix it the first time. And yeah, just fix it yourself. All the most difficult problems I had in debugging it basically came down to myself working it out. Claude AI and ChatGPT failed on multiple occasions to fix this last part of the process to get it working. It just kept going in circles. Yeah, that doesn't really understand the problem. It helps, but it doesn't really understand the problem. All right, so there's all the OpenGL stuff, ray trace. Well, haven't got too far with that. FXAA, that's for later. I haven't really mucked around with that yet. So this is DirectX. Yeah, so there's you got your vertex part, pixel shader, nice and simple. Debugging, if I want to use the debugger. This is the actual code for the edge depth, I call it. Yeah, because you're highlighting the edges plus adding the depth. It's not a bad thing to start with, and it's very simple. Look at that, it's the entire code. That's it, very simple. Yeah, anyway, SSAO, that's a bit of a nightmare. It didn't actually work. Using Claude AI and ChatGPT, I would send them the pictures and the code, and I'd say, look, it's not working right, it's doing this. It would analyze the picture, it would analyze the code, it would come back with some new code adjustments. I'd either upload the file that it created or the adjustmts. It just kept going. I just spent days and days doing that and never really got anywhere. It could never really perfect the process. I was overall pretty disappointed, frankly. Nowhere near as good as what people make it out to be. It's helpful, yes, but as a junior programmer only, that's about its limit. That's all it's good for at the moment. Maybe later, one day it might be better, but for now, that's the limit of it from my point of view. So then with the cavity shader, you need to also run your post-processing shader callbacks, which every frame that the actual shader, the final post-processing shader is running, it's going to need certain things. So here's the sending through the color texture and the depth texture, and the screen size. In case you change the screen size, it'll need updated information of that. So that's sent through automatically, but then there's also the manually adjusted settings. So you've got cavity width can be changed, the depth strength can be changed, and the edge strength can be changed as well. So that's part of the initialized post-processing parameters. So that's updates the initial value, and whenever you want to update it, I think it runs the same thing again and just updates these figures. Yeah, so there's all this stuff has to be set up correctly for to work, but at least I got the process down pat pretty well now. Yeah, so in some cases you have to set up your own callbacks. Yeah, so because it's not part of any of those last 2 or 3 processes that I just mentioned. Because especially with the SSAO, it was a very complex thing. So you've got the shader for that, then you've got the depth buffer running, then you've got another shader running after it's finished to combine the depth with the final output of the SSAO. Shouldn't really need to do that, but that's how Claude AI set it up for me. But yeah, it's very complicated, very long-winded, and didn't actually have a very good outcome. So I'm going to gut that and start over. Yeah, so, but anyway, you can see that a lot of the bugs that were happening before should be fixed by now. So there was some shader bugs of stuff not working. There was some transparency issues with particles that have been fixed up. Yeah, everything I'm aware of that there was a problem before has been fixed. The CopperCube terrain sounds, I've updated that with the latest APIs. It had some issues as well because I've changed some of the APIs and didn't work anymore properly. So I've upgraded the code to all work with the latest APIs. There's also a new API. So there was a problem with the plants loading correctly, and that's been fixed as well when you're updating the terrain in the beginning. That's been fixed. I've added a new one. So you got the get closest node. That's the closest node in front of the camera, active camera center. I've got to end up adding a new one, get collision node. So that's directly below the player. So 25 units below the player. You can change it to whatever you want, but it's also got forward amount by default, 10 units forward. So when you're walking ahead, it's sort of depending on how fast your code is running to look for the next walking sound. You might want to look ahead a little bit of distance so that it sort of makes the sound at the appropriate time. It's not delayed, because sometimes if you're running it to the code too slowly, you'll be standing on a surface and walking on it before the sound plays properly. So I decided to add a forward distance of 10 units by default, but you can change it to whatever. You can just say if you want. So that's optional, the extra 10. You can put it in or not put it in. It's up to you, but it is optional. Get collision node, it's similar but more accurate than get impact node. That'll work in many cases actually. You can actually angle where you're looking at, ahead or backwards as well, whether you're walking forwards or backwards. That can work fine. This one only looks forward. You can change it to 0 if you want. You can probably actually change the forward direction as a negative and it will look backwards then. Yeah, so it looks down and forward, so it can sort of get the correct walking sounds ahead of time. It can also get, so the first one is optional, forward, it's 10 by default, but you can change it to more or less, whatever you want. So you can change the forward amount looking. If you want the impact position and not the actual node, you can just put true as the next value. It's false by default. And the last one, you can put true or false as ignoring back faces. Ignore back faces. It's true by default. It doesn't look at back faces, so faces facing away from the player. It won't look at that unless you want it to do that, and then it will. Then override it with true, and that's when it will work. Yeah, so that works really nice. Yeah, so if you want to try cavity, just put standard procedure, cavity on as true. You can change the settings too if you want to. Cavity width, depth strength, and edge strength. These are the standard numbers. You can go before that or after that. It's just a recommendation, somewhere around there. So that is usable at the moment for good testing, but I might do some more work on that later. The CopperCube upgraded APIs version 2 has been updated again with the latest stuff. Yeah, and like I said before, the terrain sounds has been updated as well. Anyway, so yeah, I hope you like that. Check out my game if you haven't seen this before. Alien Revenge still works pretty good. I'm going to eventually get a nice proper level to put this in, the same technology and everything, different alien of course. Make a proper little game out of it. Might even try and sell it or something, who knows. But yeah, so I hope you liked that bit of an update. Let us know what you think. Yeah, cheers.